That is a beastly looking motherboard.
It really is.
Gotcha. Is that for the Wi-Fi and
Yep.
the Bluetooth?
Yep, and it'll be magnetic. Actually, they did do a little bit of a redesign. This is a pretty beefy heatsink, right? For the NVMe SSD.
First thing we're going to do is install this NVMe.
And that should go in like this and drop it down. Some people always forget to peel thing right here. This is the thermal pad. This guy in reverse.
Nice to have the heatsink just clip in and out without screws, right?
Core Ultra 9 285K.
The benchmarks on Puget's website show that this actually does better, significantly better than any of the other AMD chips with certain programs, like Premiere Pro, for example.
That is actually disappointing.
What's disappointing?
How they packaged this. Let me show you how the other one looks like. This one comes from a 14900K. This is just a little piece of plastic.
So you're disappointed in how they packaged
the
new CPU. That does look a little bit more sophisticated.
More premium. So they always show you triangle to the triangle. But in this case, we're not going to be using this mounting mechanism at all.
Because of the Arctic cooler?
Exactly. But we still need to line up triangle to triangle. The key is not to put your fingers in the socket. So yeah, this cooler is definitely going to be massive.
That
a lot of people
beast of a cooler.
Don't realize how big a 420 really is. Yeah. But right now what I want to do is I want to install the mounting bracket that goes here over here, put the RAM, and then do a test boot. Test boot should not take no longer than like 10-15 seconds, which will be okay without having the CPU cooler. And the reason why you do this versus assembling it all in the computer is you actually have working space, and if there's something that's malfunctioning, rather than disassembling all the work and all the cable management you do, it's already right here in front of you. This requires a Torx bit to remove. I always place my thumb on the CPU. Reason why is when you're taking all of this apart, you don't want your CPU to accidentally start flying out and then you damage your pins. Always, always, always keep your mounting bracket, because if for whatever reason you need to do warranty and you don't have these installed back, no manufacturer is going to accept your warranty.
Good advice.
This guy goes like this again, arrow to arrow. You don't need to force it. If it's not going in, you're doing something wrong. There are specific screws, specific lengths for this particular cooler, so you have to use those. And these happen to be Phillips, so you'll have to switch the bit from your Torx to the Phillips. You don't ever tighten them all the way until you have all the screws, kind of like a tire, right? You start them and you go in a star type pattern. Always do a quarter turn until they are all snug. So this is going to be the CUDIMMS of the DDR5, which is clearly recommended for the Ultra 9 series, because if you don't have the right speeds, you're not taking advantage of your CPU. If you're spending $620 on your CPU, you better get the $620 worth of performance.
I will say that Stas recommended a different CPU for me, and he is in agreement with most of the people that I have been listening to, but I have a tendency to do my own thing sometimes. I don't know why.
Don't put too much pressure. There is a very nice meme going around where someone tried to install RAM sticks and broke his RAM slot and his RAM stick.
That would suck.
A good general rule of thumb is how do you know if the RAM stick is installed on the proper slots or proper physical alignment? Is typically the stickers will always be pointing towards the CPU. So if you don't see the stickers towards the CPU, you have them upside down. Preparing for a test boot to make sure all of the components are working. Okay, power supply time. No matter what adapter you get with, you're still converting a standard 8-pin that can only do 150 watts versus a 12-pin that can do 600 watts.
Gotcha. Is this a bunch of different cables in here?
Yes. So right now for the test boots, we only need 2 cables. They're nice, thick gauged. We only need the 24-pin and an 8-pin to do the test boots. So we're plugging it in. This is where a lot of people, if this is their first time building, get confused with power supplies. They will take something that says a CPU, because it's keyed the same, but they're different cables. CPU, and then plug it into PCIe. They will fit. There, it's plugged in. But a lot of people don't realize plugging a CPU into a PCIe, it's a different pin layout. You can, and I have seen it, you can kill your CPU and you can kill your GPU. I had a gal back in COVID times when every single PC component was inflated in price. And she said $150 was a little bit out of her budget. So she ended up building the computer herself. And she did swap the PCIe with 8-pin and 8-pin with PCIe cable. And she powered it on. And she had black smoke coming out of her CPU and GPU. And then she came back to me and asked if I can fix it. There you go. So 8-pin EPS goes here. If you want to do this the overclocking way, you would have both of the 8 pins plugged in. That is if you're going to push more than, I believe, with the new Intel limits, I think it's a 220 watt single cable is enough. If you're going to do anything over the stock 220 watts, what this chip is designed to do from factory, if you plan to do more, then plug both of them in. We're going to test boot to make sure the RAM, CPU, and motherboard works. Without the cooler, it should only take us 15-20 seconds. It's not going to damage anything. Now we are waiting for the computer to turn on. It's hot. We're waiting for that picture. Boom. Then we can turn it off. So we know the computer works.
Okay.
Accessories. I don't think we'll need it.
This case comes with 2 fans, 2 in the front,
2 in the front, one
in the back.
there.
All right, back there.
Looks like these are our 140s.
I think I read there's spots for 12 fans on this case, so
1, 2, 3 in the front, 4, 5, 6 on the side, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're gonna be installing the motherboard. I don't ever peel another man's plastic, so go ahead and do the peel.
Is that here?
Yep.
Okay. You could have done that for me. I wouldn't have minded, but there we go.
It's just like a new car.
Okay.
I actually, if someone peels off my plastic out of my car or my computer case or my TV, I actually return it and get a new one. People are gonna call me a male Karen now, unfortunately, but that's just the reality. That's why I said I don't ever peel another man's plastic. So now what I'm doing, so the folks on the internet can see, is there is a nipple right here.
Okay.
This nipple needs to line up with this hole that's right here.
Okay.
If you find yourself not being able to install the motherboard, take it out and put it back in and take your time. And don't put any force because this is a piece of metal. And if you grind it all over here, you can damage all of these traces. So be very, very gentle and very careful and take your time. It only goes in one way. and one way only. And you'll see the nipple comes right through. Probably it's gonna be hard to see over camera, but and you will always have leftover screws.
Lots of leftovers.
You can kind of start to pre-route some of these cables. I like to take care of cables first, then last, but some folks would rather just put it all together and then do the cable management last.
Kind of like cleaning dishes as you cook.
That's literally what I'm doing.
Right, yeah.
Or I plugged in the USB 3.
What is that for?
That's for your front USB ports.
Oh, got you.
Oh, you got 2 USB 3s. Now the question is, yes, this motherboard does support. Now, not all motherboards have 2 USB 3.0 ports.
So those both go to the front.
Yes, and
they'll
then
support all these up here.
Then the next one is going to be your USB Type C,
okay,
which will go in this way. It will only go in one way. Do not force anything in, and always give it a nice.
You want to take care of the cable.
Yes. In this particular motherboard, you have 3 ports. One is going to be an AIO, one is going to be CPU, and the third one's going to be CPU optional. I plugged your case fans into CPU optional because this particular case has a fan controller behind the motherboard tray, and we can adjust the speeds of all the fans that are currently pre-installed with a single header. This is going to be the AC97 plug, which is going to be your old school microphone headphone jack in the front of the case.
Oh, okay.
This is going to be an old school, which is going to use the AC97 chipset that's built into this board. I would not use it, but for my customer's case, I'm going to install it because, well, it's not my computer. I don't make
so if I ever want to use a 1/8 inch jack, it'll be working.
Yes. Next up is going to be probably what the internet's most frustrating part. It's frustrating because the ports are so small. Because I have this thing memorized, I can just read. This is reset switch, this is power switch, and my guess is this is hard drive LED or power LED. So reset switch is always going to be at the bottom right hand corner, pins 3 and 4, counting from the left to the right. 3 and 4. Next one is going to be, where did it go? The power switch. That's going to be pins 3 and 4 is again, but on the top. So it'll be directly right above from the reset switch. Then you have the power plus and power minus power LED. The plus is going to be pins 1 from the top, and minus is going to be pins number 2 from the top. Now, some motherboards.
That probably would have taken me 2 hours right there.
That's because I do this literally every day. But some motherboards, and I believe the Aorus motherboard is one of them, and I believe some MSI boards, they actually have a little key inside the motherboard box that allows you to adapt these connections into one little port and then plug it in all as one unit. Very friendly, but this board is not really meant for easy. It's meant for overclocking, Republic of Gamers.
Now a little bit of cable management here.
Yes, sir. And a lot of people will say, but I'm doing double the work. Well, maybe I am doing double the work, but that's okay. I bet you it's probably not the last time I'm gonna do it. Probably at least 6-7 more times.
I like the attention to detail though.
Now, because this case also has a back panel, which you will not be able to see the cable management that we have done, but at least you will know in the back of your head that it was done. This guy, once it's all set and done, it's gonna go in here and then hide everything.
Nice.
So you could say, some folks, screw it.
And I bet you some people do.
Oh, not me. Then there will always be extra bundles like this towards the end. And what I'm going to do is, because there is going to be more cables, especially coming from the power supply when we install it, I will bundle them up towards the end of the process, and then just kind of zip tie them to these zip tie points. There's a reason why Corsair thought about this, because they know there's going to be cables here, which is why they gave you these cable ties.
Makes sense.
So you could, once you have every single other cable, you can just zip tie. It'll look pristine. There's a lot of different ways you can install the cables, but when a computer is being built for the first time and you did not install the cooler, because if you install the cooler plus have the fans, you have no space to put your hands here. And that space is so important because it is so easy to plug in your CPU in. Look, I can put it in and out. Easy peasy.
Right there on the top of the motherboard.
Yep.
Now you were saying that if I overclock though, it voids the warranty. Is that true?
Yeah.
Do people know that when they're overclocking?
I'm not sure if people know.
Because I don't think I would have known that. I just would have gone in there and start
There's actually a
tweaking things.
motherboard inside of the motherboard, inside of the BIOS. When you start tweaking the voltages, it actually gives you a warning saying, hey, you may potentially damage the CPU, and they're not responsible for any kind of damages that can be done. Then we can do the 20 pin.
This is the big boy.
Yes.
Let's see, where's that going in?
That's gonna go typically on this side of the motherboard. Now, there is new motherboards that are out called Project Zero, which has 0 cables coming from the motherboard from the front, and they would all be coming from the back.
Interesting.
So if you have a Project Zero, this cable is not gonna be in the front, it'll be in the back of the case.
Makes sense.
But generally, they'll be in the same kind of area. And then again, route it through, give it a nice arch so you don't kill the cables.
Take care of the cable.
Yeah.
Makes sense. GPU cable.
Yep, it's rated for, as it says, 600 watts. It's a 600 watt cable versus these guys. They don't say it on the cable, but these cables are only rated for 150 watts. And if you daisy chain a cable that is only rated for 150 watts on a GPU that can take up to 600 watts, you're going to melt the cable or melt the adapter.
Bad idea.
We pre-routed the cables, right? Looks a little bit rat nest-like. These are the 2 CPUs, so you gotta make sure you plug them into the CPU side and not the PCI Express side. CPU, say it's labeled CPU, not PCI, CPU. Honestly, if you want to kill your hardware, go ahead, plug it in. And then this is going to be the peripherals and SATA. This is going to be for your old SATA drives or your cooler. And plug it in here. Separate them. Plug it in. Plug it in. And something like that. Now some people are going to say, well, why don't you use this arch that's designed for it? Well, because these cables are not long enough. If you had cable extensions, yes. Some folks that are really into RGB, they buy the RGB cable extensions. This guy, remember the part where I said I'm going to undo it? There it is, here it comes. Undoing it again. And it's certainly not the last time. Probably going to do it like maybe 4 more times, maybe. It helps in the long run to manage everything up front.
This liquid cooler, and let's see if it fits. A lot of people have been asking me if this thing is going to fit in this case. Here's the moment of truth.
Of course it will fit.
Look at that. Looks like it was meant for this case.
I don't know, why would I recommend this case?
Dust
filter.
Dust filter.
Highly recommend every month cleaning it out. It's magnetic. And it also hides the screws that we just installed.
Nice.
Boom. There's a lot of debates Unfortunately, I'm gonna probably offend a lot of people.
Uh-oh.
I am more of a grain of rice type of guy in terms of thermal paste. So the way I route it, if you want to come close, literally like a grain of rice, you go like that. To me, that's more than enough.
Why is this going to cause controversy?
Because some people are going to say the X pattern is better, and then there's other people who are going to say just put a big blob and then use a spatula and put it all over. But at the end of the day, it's how you mount it. When you mount it, it's going to spread apart.
Okay.
Right?
So you think that's enough right there?
Yes, it will spread apart. All we got to do is just line it up as such. It's only 2 screws. Still kind of do it like a tire, a little bit at a time. And the reason why you want to do a little bit at a time, so you have an even pressure across the thermal paste. Now, don't torque it like your life depends on it, and if you over torque it, you might put too much pressure on the IHS, which can ultimately lead to bowing the actual CPU. Pogo pins, pretty simple. Line them up. It's done by a magnet.
That's it?
That's it. This is
We're going to install this GPU that so many people have ripped on me for buying, calling it a cheese grater and everything else. But I'm going to tell you, I kind of like the looks of this GPU, and I got it for $750, which is a great deal. So,
you know, the idea behind this is to make it look like a Founders Edition. Comparing this to the Founders Edition, this is a lot lighter than the Founders Edition card.
More plastic?
Yeah, more plastic, exactly. Yeah. But it's got that Founders Edition look. Every case is different, but before installing it, I like to kind of pre-plan where it's going to go so I have an idea.
All right, well, we missed the putting the graphics card in, but there it is. It just clicks right in place. It's really easy. It just sets right in there.
And don't forget the screws.
Oh yeah, we got some screws to put in as well.
Here comes the most scariest part. How people burn their GPUs using the adapters. You need a cable like this.
Is this the 12 volt thing
yes, sir.
you've been talking about?
Yes, sir. 12 volt high power. Make sure you hear the click. Make sure you don't overbend it. Route to this way.
Oh, there we go. We just plugged the 12 volt into the PSU. So now the GPU is connected.
Plumbed up and connected. Since we went with the 7000D, it has this little nice door.
So now we've got everything wired up. We got the GPU installed. We got the, I'm gonna install 4 extra hard drives in here. So we've just installed all the cables for those and working on the cable management here. And now we're gonna power this thing up and install Windows. All right, we're powering this thing up for the first time. Well, got the cooler running. Everything's installed. Wow. Can't believe it's working. I don't know why. I can't believe it.
You brought it to a guy who does computers.
Well, because when you buy a bunch of parts, it just never seems like it's going to be a reality. And those are good temps.
Yeah.
So we've had a couple issues with the computer restarting like randomly. So we're updating the BIOS to see if that fixes the issue.
Okay, so the computer is finished, but we did run into a few problems afterward, and I'll explain those now. The computer started freezing randomly when I got it home, and also we discovered that the optical port on the back of the motherboard didn't work, so my speakers wouldn't work using an optical out cable, which was disappointing. So because of the freezing and because of the bad optical port, we sent the motherboard back, got a new motherboard, and actually I sent the CPU and the RAM back. I thought maybe it was the CUDIMMS, you know, that really high-speed RAM that might be causing the freezing. I just didn't know, so I sent it all back. Got a new CPU, the same CPU, got some new RAM, a little bit slower, 6,000 speed. I just wanted stability, and then I got the new motherboard, same motherboard. We took the motherboard out of the package and it was bent. So we sent that one back as well. So that was 2 bad Z890E Asus gaming motherboards. And so I just decided, you know, I don't want Asus anymore. That's 2 strikes, forget it. I am so glad I use Stas for my computer build. You should use him too if you're anywhere in the Portland area, just because his prices are awesome. He's awesome. He lets you come in and watch the whole setup and watch everything. Look, he even let me record the whole build, so pretty impressive. He actually prefers it if his customers stay and watch so they can learn. So that was great. What a great experience. Yurov's Computer Repair, I believe, is the name of his company, but in Vancouver. But anyway, both of us decided, you know what, there's an MSI motherboard in stock at Best Buy. I drove down there right then, that night. I picked up that motherboard. It's the Z890-A MSI, and it was half the price of the Asus. Yeah, I don't get some of the connectivity that I got with the Asus, and also it's not going to be as much of a beast for overclocking, but I'm not going to overclock that much anyway. So, you know, the Asus motherboard probably was overkill. And anyway, we got the MSI motherboard back that night, stuck it in the computer, and boom, everything, and put the new CPU and the new RAM in. And this thing's been up and running now for about 2 weeks. Not a single crash. Everything's flawless. The only issue I'm having right now is that if the computer goes to sleep, then the mouse won't work when it turns back on, and then I have to hard reset it. So I've disabled sleep. But I've found sleep to be buggy on a lot of my systems, to be honest, over the years. So really happy with the new computer. It's a beast. It's fast. It runs cool. I hope you learned a lot from this video. You can subscribe if you want. I do all sorts of random things on this channel. And sometimes I make a lot of videos and sometimes I don't make very many. So anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day. See you next time.